Most gardeners think blossom end rot is a calcium deficiency. That's the mistake that keeps ruining your harvest year after year. You see that black sunken spot at the bottom of your tomatoes or peppers, and the first thing you do is throw calcium at the soil. Eggshells, lime, crushed chalk, whatever you've heard works, and yet the problem keeps coming back. Instead of tossing shells into the soil, you need to process them into a fast available form. I dry the shells completely, then grind them into a fine powder, almost like flour. The finer the powder, the faster it becomes available. But even then, it's still slow release unless you take it one step further. The real upgrade is creating an eggshell extract. You take that powdered eggshell and soak it in a mild acid. Vinegar works perfectly. The reaction breaks down the calcium carbonate into a soluble form that plants can absorb quickly. You'll see it fizz as the acid reacts with the shells. Let it sit for 24 to 48 hours until the reaction stops. What you're left with is a calcium-rich liquid. Now here's how you actually use it. You don't pour it directly onto your plants at full strength. That's another common mistake. You dilute it. A good working ratio is about 1 tablespoon of your eggshell solution per litre of water. This becomes a foliar spray or a light soil drench. I prefer foliar application during early fruit development because it delivers calcium directly where it's needed fastest. But here's the part most people still ignore. If your watering is inconsistent, even this won't fully solve the problem. You need stable moisture levels, not wet-dry cycles, not flooding one day and drought the next. In a small backyard garden, that means watering deeply but consistently, keeping the soil evenly moist. In raised beds, it's even more critical because they dry out faster. In hydroponics, the issue shows up differently. Your nutrient solution might be perfectly balanced, but if your system has fluctuations, like irregular pump cycles or inconsistent flow, the plant still struggles to move calcium. That's why stable system design matters just as much as nutrient formulation. One thing I've tested repeatedly is how mulch changes everything. A simple organic mulch layer, about 5 to 8 centimeters thick, can stabilize soil moisture dramatically. It reduces evaporation, keeps root zones cooler, and creates a more consistent water supply. When I combine mulch with proper watering and occasional calcium foliar feeding, blossom end rot almost disappears. Not reduced, disappears. And this is where that soil calcium test kit comes back into play. When you know your baseline, you stop guessing. You stop overloading your soil with unnecessary amendments. I've seen gardeners create nutrient imbalances, trying to fix a problem that wasn't even caused by deficiency. Too much calcium can actually interfere with magnesium and potassium uptake, creating new problems while you're trying to solve the old one. Another overlooked factor is root health. Compacted soil, poor aeration, or damaged roots all reduce water uptake. And if water uptake drops, calcium transport drops with it. In raised beds, I always make sure the soil mix stays loose and well draining. In ground soil, I avoid overworking it when it's wet, which causes compaction. These small decisions add up. Temperature also plays a role. Extreme heat increases transpiration demand, but if the roots can't keep up, the plant essentially prioritizes survival over fruit development. That's when calcium gets diverted away from the fruit, leading to rot. In hot climates, shading during peak afternoon hours can make a noticeable difference. Even a 20 to 30% shade cloth can reduce stress enough to improve calcium distribution. If you're growing tomatoes specifically, variety matters too. Some varieties are simply more prone to blossom end rot, especially large fruited types. That doesn't mean you shouldn't grow them, but you need to manage conditions more tightly. Smaller fruited varieties tend to handle fluctuations better, but even they're not immune if the environment is unstable. Let's bring this back to the eggshell trick. It's not magic, it's a tool. When used correctly as a processed, soluble calcium source, It can support your plants during critical growth stages, but it only works when combined with stable watering, healthy roots, and balanced soil conditions. On its own, it's not enough, and that's where most people go wrong. In my own garden, the turning point wasn't adding more calcium, it was controlling water. Once I stabilized moisture levels and used targeted calcium applications like the eggshell extract, the results were immediate. Fruits developed clean, firm, and without that dreaded black spot. Even now, I still keep that soil calcium test kit on hand, not because I use it constantly, but because when something goes wrong, I want answers, not guesses. It's one of those tools you don't think about until you need it, and then you realize how much time it saves. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. Blossom end rot is a water management problem first, and a calcium availability problem second. Fix the water, support the calcium, and your plants will do the rest. And if you're serious about growing better food, cleaner harvests, healthier plants, fewer wasted fruits, then this is the level you need to operate on. Not myths, not shortcuts, but real, tested methods that actually work in the garden. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of practical, no-nonsense growing advice, and share this with someone who's still throwing eggshells into their soil hoping for miracles. Because once you understand how to control calcium properly, and tools like that soil calcium test kit make it much easier, you stop reacting to problems and start preventing them before they ever show up.